Hi, secondary art students. This is this week's art history lesson. It is for all the classes. Today should be Wednesday, April the 8th. And we have moved out of the Renaissance. Last week we talked about our friend Albrecht Dürer, the Northern Renaissance printmaker artist. And this week we are talking about Rembrandt. Rembrandt is a Baroque artist, a Baroque artist from the country called the Netherlands, sometimes also called Holland. And Rembrandt came in the Baroque time period, which came after the Renaissance, like I had said. Rembrandt was born in 1606 and he died in 1669. So those are the years in which he lived. We're talking about 100 years after Leonardo da Vinci and Albrecht Dürer were doing their art. So Rembrandt is, one of maybe two artists that I can think of that we refer to by their first name. The other one that comes to mind is Michelangelo. Rembrandt was his first name. Van Rijn was his last name. He was one of 9 children. He was the 8th born of 9 children, which was not unusual for that time period. And he always wanted to be an artist. He always was fascinated with painting and drawing. He did go to college, but ended up dropping out because he wanted to spend his time focusing on painting and drawing. There's a lot of things, a lot of important things to know about Rembrandt. He is considered a master of light, and that's one thing I wanted to talk to you about because the Baroque period, one of the highlights of the Baroque period is this idea of light and dark, which came to us out of the Renaissance, but the Baroque artists really ran with it. And there is a term I'm going to put up on the screen called chiaroscuro. Chiaroscuro is an Italian word that means light and dark. And chiaroscuro is used in a lot of Baroque pictures where you have this extreme light and shadow happening. And Rembrandt was a master of that. A lot of artists did amazing things with chiaroscuro besides Rembrandt. Caravaggio comes to mind. Caravaggio is an Italian Baroque artist who was also a master of this light and dark chiaroscuro. But Rembrandt really took it to a new level. Peter Paul Rubens is another rock star of the Baroque time period in our art history timeline. But Rembrandt really is considered the epitome of Western art, of our Western civilization. He is the master of the masters in painting human beings. He was a master of humanity and depicting emotion and detail in human beings like no one else could do. As I said, Rembrandt is from the Netherlands. He was born in the northern part of Netherlands, and there were many artists out of the Netherlands that were amazing artists. Vermeer is another one. Judith Leister is another Baroque artist, and a female, which was unusual to have such a renowned female artist who had her own studio with male students. That was unheard of in the time period we're talking about. But Judith Leister is another one if you want to look up some more information about her. But we are talking about Rembrandt, and Rembrandt had kind of a troubled life. Like I said, he was one of 8 children, was fascinated with art and painting, and studied under many master artists. And at a young age, like most of the most famous artists of the time on our art history timeline, he was a prodigy. He was brilliant at a young age, and many people call Rembrandt a genius. And he had a troubled life. He was sometimes difficult to work with his clients. He married. He and his wife ended up having several miscarriages, babies not making it out of infancy. They did have one son together who grew into adulthood, Titus. And Rembrandt loved his wife dearly. Her name was Saskia, and Saskia is depicted in many of his art pieces. And even in some that aren't really supposed to be her per se, but her face shows up. I'm thinking in particular of Night Watch. There's a girl in a yellow dress in the very famous painting called Night Watch. And this little girl has the same facial features as Rembrandt's wife Saskia. But Saskia died before she ever even reached the age of 30. And Saskia was the one with the money. She came from a very wealthy family, and when she died, all her money went to their son Titus. And Rembrandt was not good with money. He spent it on a lot of different things, fancy clothes and his studio, and ended up living a lot of his later years in virtual poverty. His artwork really depicts this. One special thing about Rembrandt is the amount of self-portraits he did. He did close to 100 self-portraits. And, you know, it's a lot cheaper to paint yourself than it is to hire a model. But he liked to focus on facial expression and getting facial expression correct. So he did self-portrait after self-portrait, drawings, paintings. And it's interesting to watch the progression of self-portraits from when Rembrandt was young to when Rembrandt was an older man. And they're fascinating. And I have 2 videos for you to watch today for our art history lesson. They are short, and both have to do with the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam, Holland, which is the state museum of the country. And that's the museum that houses the most Rembrandts of anywhere in the world. He is a celebrated figure in his homeland, and they have several of his works on display in the Rijksmuseum. He's undergone a restoration, and they have remodeled the whole facility and set up wonderful displays about Rembrandt and all the other artworks that are there. There are many, many dozens of self-portraits. The Rijksmuseum houses the Night Watch, the other paintings by Rembrandt, the very famous ones of the Jewish Bride, etc. So watch the videos on the Rijksmuseum and all the artwork of Rembrandt, and answer the questions. You can do that in Word. You can do that in an email to me. I'm going to pop my email address up on the screen. You can answer through the LMS, but just get me your answers by Friday. And I'll also be checking progress on your art project Friday too. So good luck, and hope the rest of your week goes well.